for the next session of the day, the two powerful case studies, one by Godrej and other by Titan. So here I welcome the two leaders, the two inspirational leaders, Raj Narayan, CHRO, Titan, and Sumit Mitra, Head Group HR, Godrej Industries Limited. Please welcome them as they take us through the journey of aligning your purpose, brand, and culture for business goals during the COVID-19. Over to you, Raj and Sumit.
Thank you. Thank you, Soumya. I'm going to get my presentation on. Just give me a second. Right. Hello, everyone. I'm coming in live from our office in Bangalore. Our office is called Integrity. It's in Electronic City in Bangalore. We resumed work in our office from the 6th of May. A small group of people, about 15% of our corporate office strength is working out of the office. Today, to walk you through this, what we are doing from getting back to normalcy and what have we been doing in this period of disruption and how are we keeping our cultural fabric alive. That's my purpose of this chat today. I'll start with getting on to giving you a quick view on what our culture is and what the cultural tenets are. On a foundation of integrity and trust, we have 7 elements which we think define our culture. The first is the unconditional positive regard for people. The second is exceptional customer service. Third is being socially responsible. And on top of that, the 4 other levers which we've been working on are ownership, accountability, dreaming or being innovative with what we do, act, which is being decisive and acting in an agile manner, and last but not the least, anticipating and adapting to change. On this cultural foundation, what did we do over the last 2 months to make sure that these tenets of our culture were kept alive and our values were kept alive? Let me just give you some examples of what happened. To look at our approach, right? We believe that keeping the culture alive and taking it through difficult times, it is the sole responsibility or the primary responsibility of leaders. Leaders who need to set the example. Before this crisis, before the lockdown happened, and when this crisis broke out, we set up a steering committee in end February, early March, and said we need to look on a daily basis how this whole thing is evolving. So we took a call earlier than when the lockdown happened to start working from home. And about a week to 10 days before the lockdown actually happened, we started working from home. And a week before the lockdown, we'd also closed our stores and factories. Same time, when normalcy was to come back and when the government permitted the working from office, it is our leadership team that set the example again. We said the leadership team needs to be out there upfront saying that we need to go back to normalcy. And the 6 of us as CXOs and a few other senior leaders came into work from the 6th of May. Of course, the critical thing was to make sure that the safety and health of our employees was taken care of. I'll talk to you a little later about how we did that. There was a very strong protocol which was put in place to ensure that this was kept up. The other side of our approach, apart from the leadership element, was to also make sure that we connected with our customers and we connected well with our customers. For this, again, it started with the leadership. I mean, our managing director and the CEOs of different businesses reached out to customers through video messages. And we have a program called Encircle, which is a loyalty program. And customers on the Encircle base got these video messages, primarily asking them about their welfare, and we could, support them in any way. And I think there was a very, very positive feedback to the messages that went out from Venkat and the CEOs of the three businesses. In addition, we reached out to customers from the front line. Our sales staff, who were also at home because the stores are closed or were closed, reached out to the customers who come to the regular customers who come to each of our stores. And I think that made sure that the connect was kept alive. And I think the customers really appreciated it because we saw a lot of messages coming in from customers appreciating the work that was done. We also did something very little different, right? We said there's a lot of talent within the organization. Why not showcase some of that talent and get our customers to see that? So, for example, for the Bengali Shubho Novo show, right? We had a group of our employees doing a 1-hour program on Ravindra Sangeet. And we had, for the Tamil New Year, we had employees doing a program of Tamil songs. And then we did another group which did songs in Kannada. So I think we said this is an opportunity where we can, at least in this period of gloom, bring in some cheer. And we of course put this through our Facebook page, and we sent out messages to our Encircle customers, to the target group. And that really kept the connect alive as well. And there were lots of positive feedback on that. Yeah. Coming back to the one other element which was very critical during this phase, it was about this whole thing of volunteering, the spirit of volunteering. I think it was so heartwarming to see a lot of our employees going out of their way to help people in need. And there were people who were making food, people who were distributing food, people who were volunteering with NGOs, people who were donating money on their own front, on their own accord, all of that. But I think what was really, very good was to see that this was being done quietly. And we, in fact, when we set out a volunteering program, we said it really took time to get people to acknowledge that they were doing this work. People didn't want the acknowledgement; they wanted to do it quietly. And so we said, no, we should at least acknowledge the work, if not do anything else. And so we started writing out letters to people who did all the good work in the background. Coming back to the period when we were in lockdown, the other wonderful thing that did happen. So there's something wrong with the presentation. It's gone off. Just give me a minute. Can you see it? Oh, yeah, you can. Sorry, it went off. Sorry about that. I guess we're getting used to technology. All right. The three other things which kept the spirit alive and our culture alive, right? And I'll come to each one of them in a little bit of detail, right? There was a lot of work on innovation that happened. And this was in terms of developing people. We launched something called the Titan University, where there was a lot of inputs that went in from a development perspective. There were webinars, there were reading material. People could design the kind of work, the material that they need to see. We also had a lot of training for the front line using technology. Training on video selling, training on service, training on connect with customers. And I think our front line was kept really busy. And we used this period also to make sure that we use technology to get cross-functional teams to come together and engage on projects and on work that needs to be done. One fantastic example of that was we put together a cross-functional team that actually designed our entire resuming work protocol across our offices, stores, and factories. And this getting back to work protocol was really top class. And today we are proud that we are able to provide an absolutely safe and secure environment, both from our office perspective, our factories, and for our stores. And the customer feedback after we opened stores started slowly opening stores from the 6th of May. The customer feedback has been very, very positive on the safety, and people really feel safe when they walk into a Tanishq store or a Titan I Plus store or a Titan or Fast Track store or a Panera store. The other thing which we did was also use technology very well to ensure that there was engagement of our employees by recognizing people who had done exemplary work before and during this period. Another element. Sorry, again, I'm having some issues with the presentation. Yeah, going back and forth. Yeah. Okay. Another thing which we did was also launch something unique. Again, an employee contribution, which is we launched something called Titan TV, which showcased talent of people outside of work. And we had people putting up those programs. In fact, there was one edition which was hosted by our employees' children. Right? And this went across all our employees, and there was talent of different kinds: music, art, cooking, sharing recipes, various things. It's basically a half an hour program which was launched, and the one being produced every week. Yeah. And that was a phenomenal effort, and I think it caused gave a lot of people a good time, and a feeling of a feel-good factor was very high. And I think we could see the creative juices flowing. And that helped ensuring that the connect was there with the employee. Last but not the least, right, the engagement was driven through various forms of development. Yeah. And I think learning was something which became a huge priority for all our employees. What we made sure was that care was there. People felt cared for. If there's bad, and by the way, this is not an easy time in any of our organizations. And leader connect and leaders speaking up front help employees understand that the leaders cared and the company cared for them. There was bad news. We had to postpone our increments. We had to postpone paying out of certain bonuses. But we went up front on that to our employees, explained that, and I think people understood the background and accepted what we had to say. Right? And I think the basis of all this is to also increase the human in the whole process while using technology and increasing connect to make sure that we stayed connected. I'm happy to take questions after Sumit tells us about the Godrej story. Right? So over to you, Sumit. I'm getting off this presentation.
Thank you, Raj, and welcome everyone to this webinar. I'll take you through our experiences at Godrej, and while there are many similarities with what Raj shared, I can promise that we didn't sort of share our presentations before. But maybe it's also a template that most organizations are now applying and finding useful. Before we start, we are a conglomerate with presence in FMCG, agri, real estate, chemicals, finance, and we have employees not just in India, but also outside India. More than half of our employees are based outside India. So our context is a lot global. And at the same time, we are 123 years young, as we call ourselves. So some of the pieces around purpose and values have continued over time. We started in crisis, and we always believe that crisis is when purpose and values really come to the forefront. So our start was in the Indian freedom movement with a lot of a lot of then emphasis on Swadeshi, as we are talking about Make in India today. Our purpose and values are more around trust, being bold, creating delight, being owning our actions, being humble, and showing respect. I'll show you a small video which will probably bring our purpose to life. Purpose is why we exist, and that's a question that we try to answer through this video. Soumya, if you can play this. So the way we have defined our purpose, and I'll sort of context the rest of the presentation around this, is we say that the business of business is goodness, placing our people, planet, and alongside profit. And I think when there are times of crisis like the ones that we are going through, I think this is a time that we sort of actually bring the purpose come alive through different actions. So when we start looking at what we are doing or what we started doing when this pandemic hit us, I think there were, as Raj said, a lot of employees who started volunteering. And we started saying that how do we bring employees closer to the field and bring businesses closer to the field. So we had our employee contribution program. So we collected a lot of payroll contribution from our employees. We strengthened public healthcare and donations. We worked with BMC. We ramped up products, and we said that we will distribute products because we are largely also a wash company, which was a very critical product during this. And all products given during this period was not counted as CSR. It was given off free. I think one of the key issues that we grappled with and which we keep hearing now is about contract labor and migrants, right? Because we have a large manufacturing base, because we are also India's largest real estate businesses. We had about 15,000 contract labor at our construction sites. These people, and how do we sort of manage these people in terms of their well-being, and how do we ensure that they get their basic needs, was a key initiative that we drove. So all our sites, we ensured that there was food, sanitation, and other support given to contract labor. And today, I think when we are opening up, out of the 15,000 contract labor that we had on our construction sites, we almost have 13,000 who still remain there. And to me, I think as we talk about business continuity, and when people are grappling with labor, ensuring welfare of our workforce, especially down the line, is a critical need that all of us needs to focus on. Of course, we talk about people, and when we look at our employees, the 20,000 odd, I think there are two perspectives that I had there. I think one was, how do we ensure that they feel safe and their families feel safe, right? Many of our manufacturing units and some of our distribution units fall in the essential category zone, and they continued to operate, right? But we realized that it's not so easy to get someone to come in, because even if the employee was to come in, the family was feeling very uneasy. So we had senior leadership connects. We actually spoke and connected directly to the families to really say that and explain to them how their spouses and how their family members are safe when they are in a Godrej office. We always had a employee well-being and a mindfulness platform where people can sort of connect to counselors to express some of the anxieties that they're going through. We ramped this up. We had several webinars. We worked with the partner to customize some of the inputs there. And while this is confidential, we don't get to see what's happening with the individual and the partner, but we see a significant increase in usage right now. So as Raj was saying, and as some of you have written in the comments, obviously stress is a big factor. And while we talk about stress, I think we need to support people on how they can cope with stress. Communication plays a very important role. Across our senior leadership, we have communicated in different ways to people. We have had town halls every 15 days, which were large town halls with more than, sorry, I think the presentation's gone off. Yeah, which were large town halls with more than 1,000 people in a town hall. And we had small group connects with about 20 people. But the consistent messaging that we have driven, apart from an update on what's happening, an update on business, and a focus on safety, is to say that, be vulnerable. So whenever each of us from leadership have spoken, we have said that, we are worried, right, about ourselves. We are worried about our families and our near and dear ones. So it's okay to say that you are worried, right? And let's have an authentic conversation on what is worrying you. We created an app over this period because we realized that in the due course of every organization's bureaucracy, we wanted ideas. We wanted ideas of productivity, bottleneck, safety to come up to senior management much quickly. So Emerge Stronger is an app that we've created where anyone in the organization across the world can reach out to the top 10 people in Godrej to say that these are some ideas that I have which can make us productive, which can make us safe, or which can sort of handle cost or look at innovation. Raj talked about leading from the front. So when in our FMCG business, when we opened up, this is a photo of Sunil Kataria, who is the CEO of our business, and we said that the sales leadership team will be first in the market before we ask the larger sales team to come in, because role modeling and demonstration is a very, very important piece on giving that comfort to people. Again, e-learning, and obviously we have a platform, but we sort of accelerated, got a lot more vendors and lot more offerings on it. And we created a lot of learning content in-house. So people who were not absolutely engaged could also upskill their portfolios. I think we look at two kinds of employees through this in the initial phase of the pandemic. I think one who were absolutely engaged and completely sort of clued in and probably overworked. But there were roles where people were finding their own rhythm to coming back to work, and there was definitely space for them to use some of these platforms. And talking about business, I think the effect of this pandemic has been different across different businesses. Some of our businesses like agri, FMCG are probably not going to be as affected as real estate and finance. But we did sort of look at this also as an opportunity. And to me, and most of our leadership, this has been very unfortunate. We are fighting this. But if we come out of this doing the same thing, then I think we have lost the plot. Yeah. So we have, again, a hand wash range. We activated the hand wash range, and we launched a large movement called Protect India movement, where we worked with government, we worked with the social sector, we worked with police to say that how do we sort of create awareness of the brand. Interestingly, some of the pieces around innovation, some of our new product development cycles came down significantly. So the product above is something that we launched in Southeast Asia and Indonesia, and we suddenly saw that the cycle time of innovation come down from almost 3 months to 30 days. Lost the presentation, go back. Yeah, sorry for this. We also looked at how do we look at opportunities. So we are Africa's largest dry hair manufacturer. Dry hair is a category which basically made out of fiber in terms of hair care products for women. And we said, while this category is going down, can we pivot some of our manufacturing towards masks, right? So we've also looked at categories and sort of moved them out in terms of how we sort of increase presence, look at market research, look at innovate using technology to drive sales. Interestingly, Godrej Properties, which is our real estate business, had the best ever quarter in quarter four, which included almost a record sales after lockdown. And we always felt that how is a high value product going to sort of manage this kind of business? But pivoting to, again, digital, pivoting to your past contact, ensuring that you use your customer base also has helped us tide through some of the business related challenges there. Obviously, long term, there will be challenges, but how do we sort of look at our employees to push business alongside taking care of their own safety is very critical. Some thoughts on adapting to the new normal, and I think all of us are thinking through this. I think a lot of this will evolve as time goes by. I think we need to reimagine business processes. As I said, if we do what we have done, I think we have lost the plot. So how can we do things differently? What is important? What is not important? Right? This is what this pandemic has taught us. It's important to look at overheads and costs. And I think one question which all of us keep wondering to say that what do employees feel? I think having an authentic conversation with employees on overheads and costs is important. And our conversation has been very, very clear to say that we will save livelihoods at all costs. We are not going to take a salary cut, but in case it is necessary, it's the senior management which is going to lead the way. We are not going to look at increments right now, but we are going to honor the work which employees have done and pay out bonuses. So having clear conversation around this has been important to drive the messaging, because it's important while we cut costs that we also keep our workforce motivated to look at opportunities and move much faster when things start normalizing. Adapting to new ways of working, obviously technology has helped. I think there's a lot of questions on why can't we sort of work from home more often? Do we need so much of workspaces, etc.? We again have a task force which we call as a new wave after COVID, which will come back with its recommendation to say that what should change both in work culture and work practices. I feel digital will be a large shift, not just around HR, but around the way we do business. For example, we used to always have a Godrej Awards function, which had about 1,000 people. We used to spend crores of rupees, and we are moving that awards digitally. We have a leadership platform, which was a 2-day intense exercise, again with speakers from around the world. We're moving that digitally. But that also means that we need to adapt this. We can't do the 2 days leadership platform, right? We'll probably do a 6-month, 2-hour platform spread through. I think how do we recraft some of this will be very critical as we start in the new normal, because we did not go back to the way we have done things. And lastly, I would say recrafting our people policies and benefits would be critical. We need to look at what was working, what will work now. A lot of our senior managers have sort of expressed saying that they never work from home because they never tried doing it, right? But when they have been forced to do it, they really find that it's quite doable, right? So when we have shifts at leadership levels, I'm sure it will help us manage change and drive organization productivity in a much, much better way. With this, I will end this discussion and hand over to for questions. Yasmin, you may want to sort of take this forward.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Sumit. I think it was a wonderful, illustrious discussion. Got so much to learn about how Godrej is managing during these times and how Titan is managing during these times. I think the focus is obviously about reimagining our processes, reimagining how we do business, and reimagining how we look at employee experience. So thank you for sharing those with us. I have a lot of questions coming up from the audience. I'll just pick up 2 or 3 in the interest of time. So the first question I have is, it is from Tuheen Sarkar, who says, what are the key focus areas on employee experience, engagement, and motivation while working remotely? So Raj, Sumit, who would like to take it up?
Okay, I think if you look at working remotely, there are, in my view, staying connected, very important, right? And how do organizations facilitate that? I think becomes key. And we've got in fact, a CFT which was put together in HR, which is working on this element. It's saying how do we ensure that the employee experience is seamless? And very importantly, what are some of those rituals that need to be put in place in this changing world? How do we make sure that there are weekly or fortnightly or monthly meetings where people need to come into work? I think it's coming into office to work, maybe not every day, but at some points is very, very critical. And having come to work in the last 2 weeks, I think the quality of discussions that we
There's a
find
mute and there's a start video. Can you see start video? No. Do you have an option?
Yes, thank you. Can I move on to my next question now? So the next question now is on how can HR better deliver on outcomes and create a great experience for its employees in times of crisis while working remotely?
I can go if it's okay, Raj.
Absolutely.
I feel HR's onus at these times is even much more than in normal times. Personally, I do not see many of our colleagues having any difficulty working remotely. Of course, if you are working with factory or sales teams, then you need to be on the ground. To me, I think there are a few things which are important. One is be very, very clear on what you are trying to drive, right? I've looked back at our plans and say what are things to do and what are must-dos, right? And focus on must-dos. The second piece is almost like micromanaging your initiatives. As Raj was saying, connect is so important, right? But almost do a calendar. Who is connecting with whom? What is the frequency? Our norm is to say that every employee must get one ping from someone in the organization. Could be the HR business partner, could be the supervisor, could be a leader. But almost do a calendar and say that, we are micromanaging this. The third, I think, is empathy. And we've had these debates to say that we've opened up factories, but is someone not feeling safe enough to come, right? HR can be high-handed and say that, no, you must come and, I will otherwise put you on loss of pay. The other way to say that, can we create empathy and have a conversation before we move to the next piece, right? And to me, empathy with very clear decision, which is communicated to the workforce, is very, very critical at these times.
Great. I think that makes a lot of sense. The next question is somewhat related to this, and I think it's a little tricky as well as interesting. I think people would love to hear. So the question comes from Nirmala Bhatt. She asks, this pandemic has challenged not only business continuity, but also profits. So how have you been addressing the big elephant in the room, which is about employee costs, layoffs, redesigning jobs, reskilling, etc.?
Okay. Can I go on this one first? Okay. We've been looking at, this is a big elephant in the room here, right? It's something which needs to be addressed. And in many of our organizations, employee cost is a big part of what we do, of our entire cost structure. We've put together a cross-functional team which is working on this, look at how can we be more frugal? What are the areas that we can actually address which will not directly impact employees, right? There are various ways of which are not felt by the employee it doesn't impact the employee's salary or take home, right? There are various elements to the cost which are there. How do we address and pare those down? And you'll be surprised when you analyze your costs, which are either directly being accounted as employee costs or indirect costs which the organization incurs. A fairly large pie which you can bring down, right? And look at what is essential. All discretionary spends you postpone for this period. Doing that, you'll find that there's a fairly large sum of money that can be saved. Of course, if it comes to the now, then you'll have to start with no increments and reductions of salaries first. And here it will start with 3 months. So you need to first analyze your costs in absolute detail to prioritize what are the things which do not impact the employee's livelihood. Look at reducing that in a phased manner. Then, last but not the least, if you're business does not get back to normal. And we are hopeful that we'll get back to normal. Our stores have started opening, revenues have slowly started trickling in, and we made a plan for the year in a sense, but with the proviso that we will review it every month and every quarter. And I think that's the way to do it. And I think whatever we do, very critical that as you get clarity on this, the leadership team needs to communicate directly with employees. Authentic communication, bringing employees up to speed on the reality makes a big, big difference. Ultimately, if you appreciate a reality and appreciate the need for something to be done, then your ability to accept that is also better. The way we look at it, look at the salary cuts in the end, do other things which can reduce costs first.
Great. Sure. Sumit, would you like to add to that?
No, I think Raj has got it bang on. I would want to add that possibly both of our sectors are not in the hospitality aviation pieces where we are seeing a lot more issues, and we do feel that over the year we will be able to bounce back relatively well. But zero-based budgeting question every element of cost, and I would agree that if you look at your fixed overheads, while employee cost is a large chunk, it's not the only chunk, right? And to me, I think managing the fixed overheads very critically and not just looking at one element of it as HR professionals is very important, right? Because we almost always deep dive on people. Even around people, I think there are lots of other elements of cost which is apart from salaries, right?
Yes.
And how do we optimize those? I think are very critical. And I think it's an organization's philosophy on how much are we going to stretch before we actually move to a salary cut, and before we go into layoffs. Right?
Sure.
But let me also sort of say that this is an opportunity. But this is also an opportunity. Yes. This is also an opportunity to right-size the organization, right? And we've got a team which is looking at roles, levels, etc. And we may have a blueprint which we will obviously not execute in the next 6 to 12 months, right? But going forward, I think it does, and we must take a harder look on roles and productivity, right?
Yes, it does.
But handling that with empathy, handling that at the right time also is very critical.
Great. So my final question to the both of you, and it has actually come for the both of you. So we have a question that says, what have Sumit and Raj discovered about their leadership styles during COVID? Just a quick brief, maybe a few words on these, please.
I think it's a very, very interesting question.
Yes.
So I think it's been both personal as well as professional. I think personally, I've sort of really realized that the time being spent with the family was not enough. And now, obviously, while you work your 8-10 hours a day, you do have a lot of more time to engage. And I think, how we sort of engage with family, how do we sort of co-create joy within, I think has been a big, big discovery for me. Professionally, I feel that, while we were always connected, I personally could have been a lot more systematic around connects, right? And now, as I was saying, that while we have sort of emphasized on connecting with employees, I think the basic way of even calendarizing and driving it in a much more systematic way has helped me a lot. And to me, I think this is something that I would want to sort of take forward. And lastly, to look at all our projects, all our priorities, and sort of then look at them with impact. And possibly, if things are not making impact, don't sort of really drive it.
Great, thanks. Raj, over to you quickly.
I think I would, at the risk of saying all three of the above, or what he mentioned, right? Apart from that, I think yes, connect, looking at things with impact, etc. But I think one thing which I realized, which was a very deep one in a sense, was I think as a leader, I tend to be giving people a lot of space, and when you're working from home, you give even more space. Right? And I think the actual thing of, giving people as much space to innovate, to take risks, to do things, and then getting to know about things perhaps only after it's been done sometimes. Right? I think that's a great feeling in many ways, and people feel a huge sense of ownership. And I think it's critical to give people more and more space. And I think leaders, as work from home becomes more reality, will realize that. Yeah, and I think that's something which I, in addition to whatever Sumit mentioned, because those three things also I realized in a very different way about stuff at home as well as connect and impact. Yeah.
Sure. Great. Thank you. On that note, we come to the end of this exciting session. It was such a wonderful interaction. Thank you, Raj. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to have more of you coming in other programs that we host, because there's so much to learn from the both of you. So thank you once again to both of you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Sumit.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. So let's join our next session now. Click on the session link to attend the